Hello, this will be, I haven't been able to find any tablature on the song, and even if I did, I'd probably win most of it anyways. Now, I'm going to play the actual song, because I'm confident I won't get striked for it, because I played Coil before in my videos, and, perhaps because they are just that cool, and maybe something to do with both the members being dead. Yeah, I don't get gotten striked, which is great. For my Love Secret Domain video and everything. Yeah, that was me kind of letting loose, going a little wild. But hey, my lady friends at the time seemed to like it, so can you blame me? Can you blame me? Anyways, I've dedicated a video to these guys called Coil, my favorite duo of psychedelic murders, because they tried to capture psychedelia as much as possible on their albums. Love Secret Domain, LSD. They're on so much LSD that they couldn't even stand up for the entirety of that album, except for Christopherson or Sleazy, Christopherson, whatever his name is. He was really the brains behind Coil. He composed everything. Because keep in mind, this is a duo. One guy singing and one guy making all the music, which is pretty impressive. And Christopherson, he was otherwise very well paid. He had a very prestigious career. He was keyboardist for Genesis to start out with at a very young age. He did a lot of producing and a lot of directing for music videos. He directed the music video for this song, Ostia, Death of Pasolini, which I never would have even known about how Pasolini, this Italian director, very controversial figure at the time. You may know his film 120 Days of Solo, or 120 Days of Sodom. I personally haven't watched it. I know of the story that inspired it, and I've watched videos analyzing the film, and it just seems disgusting, and I pride myself on having pretty thick skin when it comes to that stuff, but I mean, I just don't really feel the need to watch that. I get that he's making a point about fascist dictatorships and how evil the people can be, and how they, the Western world, literally is, well, not literally, but they're metaphorically making you eat shit, shit food. But in the movie, they force young people to eat actual shit, and yeah, it's pretty fucked up. But in any case, he was very controversial because he was a communist, and this is, back concurrent to Fellini, so 50s, 60s, 70s. I think he was dead before the 70s, but 50s, 60s. And Salo, by the way, is still considered the most disturbing movie ever made. But in any case, yeah, and he was also openly gay. But his death was very mysterious. All they know is that he got into a car with a young male prostitute and a group of other people who, through the very reserved descriptions given by the male prostitute, probably mobsters. It's debated whether they were trying to extort him for a unreleased director's cut of Salo. I think that's unlikely though, because the mob they at least like to, from what I can tell. I mean, I've never met an Italian mobster that I know of. Anyways, I think the mobs they've lost a lot of their steam over the years, which is, not necessarily a bad thing. Weren't exactly the greatest people in the world. I mean, they did do a lot of work with the Vatican, though. Look it up, it's true. But in any case, yeah, so Pasolini, all we know is that he died very brutally. He got ran over with a car about 3 or 4 times while he was still alive, and that didn't kill him. So he came out and smashed his nuts like literally like smashed his balls with a fucking crowbar and kicked him over the cliffs of Dover, which are, you know, this exquisite, beautiful sort of natural tourist attraction. I thought they were in Ireland, but I mean, evidently I'm wrong. He is Italian, so I think it's happened either in Italy or Spain. I don't know. But anyways, that's how I learned about the death of Pasolini, and I think it's fascinating and highly underreported on. It's brutal as fuck, but the song is beautiful, and the music video for it is pretty cool. And yeah, I wasn't able to find any tablature, so I'm just gonna like, you know, essentially wing everything. I like doing that anyways. Superseding what you can hear from my guitar. Sluggish golden river, simply golden trickle, a golden trickle. You can hear the bones humming, you can hear the bones humming, and the caress of summer. Of Ostia. Neon like a light, taking in the sunshine. Mine lies down, mine lies down. The sun came for sleep, not the storm came for sleep. That means a hell of a sound to come out of two people. And yeah, I mean, if you don't have enough incentive to look into these guys anymore, then I'll tell you this much. Nick Cave himself, yes, Nick Cave of the Bad Seeds, you know, the author, who's very popular amongst mostly teenagers. I read The I Saw the Angel or whatever because it was strongly recommended to me by someone in my class in grade 12, and it's kind of like, yeah, this is, I mean, I could see why this would be impressive to some people, but, I mean, I'd rather just like read Steinbeck or something like that. I mean, there's no denying Nick Cave is a very talented dude, and like his songwriting is like poetic. I like that there's actually like a Dr. Seuss style book for Red Right Hand with, you know, illustrations for all the lyrics, because, you know, he does paint very illustrious images in his songs, like Where the Wild Roses Grow. Also a beautiful song too. But with that being said, he was supposed to do gigs with Coil. I believe this was back when he was in his punk band. I can't remember the name of it because it was honestly kind of forgettable. And just like, you know, screaming, look at me, I'm being edgy. And yeah, so Coil, this was because they were both like very openly gay, the two members. And I mean, they're into a lot of crazy shit, like Thelema, the whole Aleister Crowley, you know, like if you like get a chick off and set an intention, it'll send a wish up to the cosmos and, you know, potentially bring it into reality. Kind of wild, but, you know, interesting nonetheless. I mean, Crowley it's highly speculated that he was the guy who gave, what's his name, Aldous Huxley, you know, who wrote Doors of Perception, which the band The Doors named their band after. I mean, it's a very short read. It's essentially like the first like kind of trip report. You know, it's not much longer than just like a long Arrowwood report, but it's from a very academic writer, so it's much more eloquent, structured, and fleshed out. And also, you got to keep in mind, this was before LSD and stuff like that. So, you know, his experience was, you know, a very unique, unparalleled sort of, like I mean, yes, other people had taken mescaline at that, you know, around that time in its concentrated form, and had been taking it for thousands of years before then, but no one had ever written about it as openly as he did. But yeah, I mean, how the fuck did I get here? Aldous Huxley. Someone's looking. Yeah. Aleister Crowley was thought to have been the one to give him mescaline at a dinner party. He gave him a capsule of, I believe, 400 milligrams of mescaline hydrochloride, which is apparently a pretty strong dose. So, you know, considering he had never done anything psychoactive in his life, you know, it makes for an interesting read. I would recommend it. But going just to real things back about it, Nick Cave said, because you know, the two gay guys on stage were like drinking bags of blood and stuff like that because it was during the AIDS pandemic, and you know, they were kind of protesting against all the stuff that was going on, and they knew that, you know, you don't get AIDS by fucking drinking blood. I mean, they're drinking their own blood anyways, but I think they're even like giving themselves like, you know, enemas with it, but yeah, they went through a pretty like radical period, but are like both highly intelligent. I mean, John Bellance, the lead singer, completely insane. He had schizophrenia his entire life and did a fuckload of psychedelics, so that probably didn't help. And was a hardcore alcoholic. There's not much footage of him out there, but he looks completely fucking out to lunch. In like everything, nearly everything I've seen. Like his pupils will be completely black, and he'll just like kind of be like just looking around and like, he was very crazy, but you know, crazy brilliant at the same time. Like I watched a video where he was learning to play an egg slicer as an instrument on stage. They were very creative, very creative, and yeah, I mean, that's a hell of a sound to come from two people. And for Nick Cave to walk out of the show and go, that was too gay for me, fucking hilarious. I mean, it makes me lose a little bit of respect for Nick Cave, but I mean, if you're seeing dudes like giving themselves enemas with blood, I mean, that would be like a little, like, okay, what the fuck? And if you still, you know, question, like, you know, whether the extreme measures these guys took were just like a publicity thing or were sincere, Christopherson was behind the infamous 9 Inch Nails band music video for Broken, which I've only seen bits and pieces of because it just seems like shocking gore porn, scat stuff. Like it's pretty fucked up. But it's very realistic too. Like people thought it was like an actual snuff film. But Christopherson, he was the one who came up with a lot of it with Trent Reznor. Like Trent Reznor had a great deal of admiration for Coil, and I don't think Reznor was like, he really obviously wanted to be edgy with Broken. Like, he really wanted to be like, fuck you, music industry, and fuck conformity, and all. Like, he was going through that phase. You know, keep in mind, just years before that, he was like a band kid in college. He wanted to play like the tuba or some shit. And don't get me wrong, I think he's very talented. I'm personally not a huge 9 Inch Nails fan. I like some of their early stuff. I like the stuff he's done with Atticus Ross, but I think he's also done some stuff that's just like tasteless. The music video that was released for the public to see from Broken, because the stuff that he came up with Christopherson, and I do not think Reznor had either the brains or the connections with the people, like I can't remember the dude's name, but the sadist in it who gets ripped apart by those machines. And I think it's like the third song in or something. he was actually like a performance artist who had I'm sorry, my mouth is super dry, I can't fucking talk. Cystic fibrosis, I think was called, where your lungs fill with fluid. It ultimately killed him, unfortunately, but he became a performance artist who would, like, hang himself on hooks and stuff like that, and like extreme BDSM stuff, because he was in so much pain from his condition that this extreme sadism towards himself was what ultimately gave him relief from that, which I find to be very fascinating. You can find his name if you look up the Broken Lost Music videos. But you can find his name. I watched a documentary on him like a long time ago. It's a very interesting, very tragic story. I think he was a very brave guy. But it also speaks, volumes about, the fight for taking control of, a condition that is causing you great pain. And, it speaks to the extremity of his condition, which he had since he was a kid. And that he had to, like, inflict such unfathomable levels of, like, self-flagellation and, turned it into art, which I think is the neatest part. And in doing so, kind of raised some awareness about conditions like this. And, I remember when I first started getting nerve pain, and I was doing like heroin and stuff like that, and like in a weird way, like sometimes I kind of look forward to withdrawal, because it was like, this would be pain I can focus on, that is a pain I have some degree of control over, whereas with my nerve pain I don't. But I've come to terms with that a lot more over the years. I've learned not to, give in to that compulsion to just, and this may sound hyperbolic, but it's not, like, to just fucking fall into the ground, roll up into a fetal position, and just start screaming, because it's not very nice. It's 24 hours a day, all the time. Like right now, it's like there's a raging fucking whirlpool of fire fucking going around my shoulder blades and out into my extremities and down my legs. And of course, my prostatitis has given me terrible hemorrhoids and stuff like that. And the thing is, people look at me though, and they don't see anything. They don't see any, signs of disorder, and they see that I'm relatively composed. Well, it took me years to get there, and years of not numbing myself with heroin. And admittedly, I have numbed myself with ketamine, and I numb myself with cannabis. Even though I feel sharper after I smoke cannabis, and I smoke very heavy concoctions. You can look at my video on the Sledge, fucking the stuff I make, this stuff right here, yeah, it's very strong. It's live resin, it's hash, it's indica, sativa, CBD isolate powder. Yeah, it's smoking a joint. It's like taking an edible. It makes you trip a little bit. But it's better treatment than ketamine, that's for sure. Because ketamine is very psychologically addictive. After my last changa trip, haven't taken any for like the last 2 days, which is like, and this is kind of sad to say, that's the longest I've gone without taking ketamine for a while now. But I mean, the nice thing is, and I've heard varying stories. Some people say they experience physical withdrawal from it, but I have terrible central nervous system sensitivity, and I also have consequentially, as a result of that, a very weakened, like essentially kneecapped immune system, like either fully immunocompromised or like verging on it. Like, you know, it's something that you think if it was physically addictive, because, you know, how I got on benzos again was taking very small amounts of Xanax, like maximum 6 milligrams a day of Xanax for like a couple weeks, and I was like fucking completely hooked. Like if I stopped, I would have probably died. So I'm just making the point that, you know, my system is very sensitive. So if I was to get hooked on something, if something had physically addictive properties, I would know about it. I think what people are describing is rebound, and people don't really know what rebound is. Rebound is essentially, you know, you take something, it makes things better, and then you don't take it anymore, and, well, the stuff that was being aided, being ameliorated by it, comes back even harder. I don't get that so much with ketamine. Even like benzodiazepines give you rebound, and you don't have to be physically dependent on them for that. Like hangovers from alcohol are a sort of rebound effect, which is, you know, why I really caution people against using either one of those things. They both work on the same receptors. They're both the only forms of physical addiction that can actually kill you. But do I plan on stopping ketamine altogether? No, I'll still use it once in blue moon, but you know, it really loses its novelty when you're doing it once a day in a large dose. And I, you know, as I've said before, I'll say it again, so people, you know, don't twist my words and try to make it sound worse than it actually is. So unfortunately, a lot of people have done that over my life. You know, that's part of why I try to be as honest as possible on this channel. Intramuscular ketamine, I do not advise anyone do that unless they are, you know, in a clinical setting where they're getting like an infusion or something where they probably will give you IV ketamine anyways instead of intramuscular. Even though I think intramuscular is like how it should be done. Again, not endorsing people to do that. If you don't have a tolerance, you don't need to do that. Like for me, I would need to, like, and I get very high quality ketamine. If I snort it, I would need to use like 3-4 times the amount to get anywhere near what I would get from, you know, a quarter of that in an intramuscular shot. But yeah, I mean, even just once a day, which was like, you know, I sort of tapered myself down. I was doing it, you know, every hour on the hour for a while, like months and months and months back, to twice a day. And then about a little over a week ago, once a day. And a big part of that inspiration is from the changa. Like, it's like, dude, telling me, like, stop doing fucking ketamine for fuck's sake, or stop at least using it in excess. You know, use it as like an absolute last resort, PRN. You know, and the thing is, if you want quality fucking K, it's expensive in my city, man. It's the same price as like the top tier fucking cocaine out there. I mean, cocaine sucks, but it's expensive. People pay top dollar for that stuff. But I mean, yeah. Anyways, it's just interesting because yeah, I may have shared this in the last video, but DM Turner, he died because he did a whack K while he was drawing a bath, went over, whacked his head, knocked himself out, and he drowned in his bathtub. John Lilly almost died the same way. John Lilly actually squirted to death a couple of times from complications involving just irresponsible ketamine use, which is the key term. Not an overdose or anything like that. It was him, like, he anesthetized himself once and went in his hot tub just don't. If you're on something that's going to take you potentially out of your body, don't go in the water. Just don't. It's kind of, you think that'd be common sense, but whatever. I don't know. Yeah, like he essentially was found just floating, like with his face in the water, by his wife, who had learned CPR like the day before in a magazine and saved him. And that wasn't the first, that was the first, but that wasn't the last time that he nearly died from it. There have been ketamine related fatalities, but never an overdose, never a recorded overdose. And yes, I am defending it because I do think it is one of the safest and best analgesics out there, but I think due to its illegal status and it being very expensive to get it legally, to give you an idea, like an infusion I think cost, like when I was at the clinic that was giving me it, cost like $1,500 or something like that, for about 3 they call them boluses of ketamine. Like they had it constantly cycling through my system, but a bolus would be they literally said these words to me: "We're gonna K-hole you out of your fucking mind." And for most of these infusions, I blacked out because they gave me so much that I came back and I barely remembered fucking even K-holing in the first place. And those are like pretty cool experiences. I had a good time, but it was just way too expensive. I mean, like, to put that in perspective, that would, with the extreme price for ketamine today, that would be like, the amount they gave me would be like $20 to like $60 max. So it seems like not super feasible for most people like me who are on disability. And I do think it's something that, is being used more by clinicians, but like my uncle, for example, was given it when he had a heart attack, and he said it was the scariest part of the whole heart attack, because when they give you a heavy-duty anesthetic dose, the dose starts to wane in your system, and so you come back into lucidity, but you are still K-holing extremely fucking hard. Trust me, I've been there. Thing is, as interesting as K-holes can be, it's mostly like closed eye visuals, I find, but like very vivid, like lucid dream style. Like it's not very psychedelic in my opinion. It's more like a lucid dream. But you need to close your eyes. You need to have be in the dark, have an eye mask on, pretty much. Otherwise, not much interested in content. But even so, you will forget most of it. And I'm not trying to tell you what your experience will be or will not be, but talking to most people, that is the case, and that is the case for me. Even I've mixed it with DMT many times, which last time I did, I got my ass handed to me in a hi-hat. It was so intense, my god. But it just defeats the purpose. I just don't take them anywhere near each other now, because they're like warning me not to do it. And I brought up DMT Turner because in the Central Psychedelic Guide he says DMT entities were like, if you continue doing this, it will kill you. And he wasn't a chronic user. He was like he was a chronic user of psychedelics. He would every weekend take like 25 hits of acid or like 30 grams of mushrooms because he had this like weirdly high tolerance. Except in this fucking, I think, provides credence to my theory that inhaling DMT just fully bypasses the blood-brain barrier, which is why I can do it despite my system being fucked. I mean, like, look at my hands, man. This shaking is just gonna get worse as the day goes on. Playing guitar is kind of how I tame that a little bit. But I mean, in any case, yeah, I mean, it's like it's just pointless. It's just pointless to mix the two, I find, personally, because although it makes it way easier to break through, it makes it break through way more fucking crazy. Like I used to mix it with changa all the time, and like I had sort of better results, but when I mixed it with just NN-DMT, it would, like, I would forget the majority of what happened, just coming out of it and being like, that was fucking intense, dude. Wow, what happened? Oh fuck, I can barely remember. With changa though, like, more lucid, I think, just because of the nature of changa. The MAOI makes it a little more immersive, in my opinion. There's a little more depth, a little less speed to the experience, but that doesn't mean it can't be as crazy, if not more crazy, than the DMT breakthrough, because it lasts, you know, up to 3 times as long. I actually had changas lasted an hour, because it's from someone who obviously used way too much MAOI in it, and that was super fucking intense. That was definitely up there in, like, probably my top 3, maybe top 5 at least, most intense breakthroughs. But like, I used to, the mix used to gel quite well, but then I found it was like there was a split between the ketamine visuals and the DMT visuals, which was neat, like the first few times I made that combination, and had those, like, very distinct visual results, but it was very clear to me after the second, third, fourth time doing it that the changa didn't like the ketamine. It didn't want anything to do with it. It didn't want to work with it. I mean, and they used to synchronize quite well, as I said, but you know, like, even though I think psychedelics are a product of our brain, you know, showing off its, like, unfathomable complexity and our conscious, unconscious archetypes and so on and so forth, and really, really bringing them to life. You know, I can't lie about how real and sentient DMT entities feel, and how it seems like they really are just saturated with infinite wisdom. So I find it kind of ominous that DM Turner was getting messages saying this will kill you, and it did. You know, it all of a sudden saying to me, stop fucking doing it for your own good. So, you know, I'm gonna try to heed that as best I can. And it, you know, they were also like, they cut me off before. I was like, wait, can I do it like once a month or something? And I'm like, yeah, fine, whatever. Just don't do it every fucking day, and don't mix, you know, this and that, because we're giving you lots and lots of stuff to process as it is. So, oh yeah, but I finished my latest blend. I don't know if I should just do a separate video, or no, here, I'll show you what it looks like so far. It's fucking gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. I've taken some pictures with it, and I was like hanging out on my porch feeding the crows. Like, you know, we were just a couple of pals taking some selfies. Yeah, look at that. That's some beautiful stuff. Let's see if I can get some better lighting here. I don't know if you can see that any better. Oh, yeah. That's my fine stuff. So, I used a little less MAOI. I used 200 milligrams, and then, of course, 500 milligrams of DMT spread across. I haven't weighed it yet because it hasn't fully dried, but yeah, I spread it across half a gram mullein, a gram of this mixture right here, which I've really been digging. It really is nice and fragrant, and it goes down pretty well. I mean, it even says it's a smoking blend. Yeah, that's what's in it. It's not focusing, but okay, I'll just tell you. It says Mullen Go-To Cola. I have no idea what that is. Damiana, Rose Petals, Hibiscus. The hibiscus is has a really nice flavor to it, in my opinion. And I used 0.2 200 milligrams of passion flower, because I found that the passion flower had a lot of twigs in it. So for this, I tried to limit that as much as possible and just use the leaves. And it didn't seem to be anywhere near as absorbent as Mullen. Like, Mullen is, like, really, I think, the best ingredient you can use. Because, like, since I used less Mullen last time, just whatever was in that mixture, which was, you know, like, maybe made up, like, 1/10, like, maybe 25% of the mixture, so it wasn't a lot. Like, this stuff here, it absorbed everything immediately. I just mixed, like, what I did is I took 2 little vials here, 2 little vials. One was full of 1/2 gram, and one was the one I used before. Filled one up. Okay, first things first, I weighed out the DMT, weighed out the Harmala, and then so I dumped the DMT out of here. Which, you know, because of just like how sticky and fluffy this stuff is, there's still probably like a point left inside. So I, you know, put some ISO in it, shook it around, and I had the stuff weighed out on a card. This thing was empty, except for, you know, you can see the crystals that have kind of congealed on the side. And I think that's mostly the MAOI. But I mean, either, it doesn't really matter to me, because the fucking last batch was strong enough as it is, and I've only added like an additional 0.2 grams and a little less of the Harmala. But yeah, so I filled this up, shook it around, and then I filled up another one like this that I used for the last one. And interestingly enough, the pure white fluffy DMT that I had, whatever was left from the last batch that had kind of developed around the lid here, like it had crystallized around the lid, it was orange, which I found interesting, because yeah, it was like, I mean, behind all my fucking empty K baggies there, I've got a little bit of orange DMT. I don't really feel like digging it out. My hands are already full, but most of the DMT I've gotten has been orange over my life. And it's, you know, it's strong, but it's not nice, and, well, not that the pure white stuff is necessarily gentle, but it's more gentle, I find. Anyways, yeah, so I poured in the ISO first, then the Harmala, the DMT, bing bang bong, fucking infused the two, and essentially magic, right? Legal, baby. Because, hey, I call it spiritualism by proxy, because I just think that, you know, I don't deny that spirit realms, astral bodies, hell, even, you know, well, fire and brimstone, hell, Catholicism talks about, you know, ad nauseum, could be real. I don't know. I'm not qualified to know. And I think I would be a more, like, spiritual person in a metaphysical sense, because I've always, you know, just had as a guilty pleasure, had a fascination with UFOs, you know, ghosts, the paranormal, cryptids. I find that stuff fascinating, but like Carl Jung, I find it a sort of subconscious fiction, like, you know, this is the closest I come to embracing kind of radical beliefs. the collective unconscious. Carl Jung, he wrote a whole book on how UFOs were a projection of the public's mind collectively trying to deal with the fear brought on by the Cold War and the constant threat of nuclear Armageddon, which, by the way, we are closer to than ever before. But the level of paranoia that my parents described during like the 50s, 60s, 70s, especially during the whole Cuba Missile Crisis, it was palpable.